everyone, to Watch Challenge. On each episode, we challenge ourselves to find and watch a film of a particular type and then report back the results to each other and you fine listeners. My name is Aaron Spears.
And I'm Mike Wendt. This episode's challenge, because we are in the thick of the holiday season, is holiday horror. Movies like Violent Night and Christmas Bloody Christmas are out right now.
Yeah.
I actually just got to see Violent Night this past weekend at the drive-in, and it was a lot of fun, in my opinion.
We had family obligations, and I saw that at the drive-in. I was like, God, that'd be the perfect place to go watch that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I enjoy that the drive-in. I think it was closed for a couple weeks, and then they decided to open it up for like 2 more weekends, so people could see Violent Night. I think that's like the perfect place to see that kind of movie.
Oh yeah.
And the weather still has, knock on wood, it has still been a little bit mild.
Right.
We haven't had a lot of snow yet, but
yeah, for a Cleveland December, we've been 40s and rainy a lot versus what it could be. So
yeah. But anyway, this episode is going to be holiday horror, which I guess could mean a lot of different things for different people. So it could mean Christmas, it could mean Hanukkah, it could mean New Year's, it could be maybe even Thanksgiving. I'm not sure.
But. Yeah. There's what's the Trumma one? Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I think it's in there. Yeah. I did stick pretty much within the kind of Christmas realm because I did some Google searches. I didn't find a Kwanzaa horror film. I really didn't find a Hanukkah horror film. It was kind of defaulting to Christmas as I was putting the list together.
Same.
But we thought, hey, if we're doing the conceit of the show, picking a topic to watch like holiday films, I mean, you could do that, but that's also a huge category. I am around a lot of the shitty Hallmark ones because you got to play through a few of them every year, and it's just not something I want to do a whole episode about. But like the holiday horror, I was like, I'm still kind of catching up with some of my leftover Halloween or my October picks for Hooptober. And I was like, oh, there's a couple of crossover ones here we can do as well. And think of it this way. If you're not that big of like a horror fan around like Christmas or the holidays, maybe use one of these just in the mix along with your Hallmark movie. Just, go for a little blood and guts and suspense here on occasion.
Do you think it's like, it's somewhat of a hindrance? Like, say if you direct a movie and it's so specific holidays, does it like hurt the rewatchability during the rest of the year, or is it good to have a movie that potentially could be revisited at the same point of every year?
A good question, because it feels sort of like is that the definition of a catch-22?
right. I guess
ballpark. I think the screenwriter for the screenwriter for Violent Night and the director of Christmas Bloody Christmas were just on the Pure Cinema podcast.
Oh, okay.
And they were kind of wrestling with that same thing. When you're the creator of something like that, you want people to you don't want people to one and done your movie. You want it to be beloved, ideally. People love it and they want to go for it. And so they were saying that maybe even if you're so on the movie, there's so few holiday, specifically Christmas horror movies, that if you are a horror fan and you're kind of like Violent Night, or it's a 2.5 star movie, you may just revisit it because it's just in the category of Christmas horror. Oh, it's now a 4-star movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, they were kind of wrestling with that. And I was like, that's a good point. Cause I don't mean any shade on those two movies, because I haven't seen either one yet. Both guys were like a blast to listen to talk about their films. But to me, the bar is kind of lowered when we go into holiday films already. But now you're doing a subgenre below that of holiday horror. I watched some garbage in preparation for this show. I'm not including it on my list necessarily, but it's a low bar for this particular genre.
Yeah, no, there are some that are very skippable. But hey, I guess it's like, if it is that flash in the pan, if because I tended to stick with, when going through these, probably mostly to the 80s, which I think we've discussed on this podcast before. It's like the heyday of horror movies.
Yeah.
But really, probably, I know we're gonna talk about it real quick here, is maybe the gold standard for holiday horror movies is from the 70s, which is Black Christmas by Bob Clark.
Yeah, 1974. The date is very important because I did a first watch of it a couple weeks ago. You revisited it a couple weeks ago,
Yes.
and we both were like, we're not putting this on our list because like it's the easy search. You know, when you do a Google search, holiday horror, Christmas horror, like it's going to come up. So we were trying to dig a little deeper, but I kept pausing it because I was like, wait a minute, there's a slasher loose in a sorority house. I've seen that movie in the 80s. Before that, there's a POV killer shots. That's Halloween, 1978, 4 years later. I was like, wait. Did Bob Clark like invent the language of slasher
Right.
films here with Black
Right.
Christmas? And he kind of did. Down to even like there was kind of some Giallo vibes because we just did our episode on Giallo
Oh
films.
yeah.
Like the color palette of like she has like the yellow scarf on a lot. There's always a yellow in the Giallo stuff. Also, the name of it is Giallo is yellow. But the reds and the blues, I was like, this is looking really similar. There's even okay, so I was really geeking out about this. There was even that shot, and I never didn't know what it was called, but it was like half in focus and half not in focus.
Yeah.
Depth of field that Brian De Palma uses. So it's the diopter shot.
Yeah.
So like foreground and background are both fully in focus, but it's on two sides of the screen. Bob Clark's doing that in Black Christmas,
Yeah.
which is like a year or two before De Palma kind of breaks through with like Dress to Kill and like some of his early stuff. I was like, I
Yeah.
had no idea Bob Clark was like completely on it in '74 doing that with Black Christmas.
Yeah, like I'm sure he's probably, not not considered like a visual auteur or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they were definitely he was definitely trying some different things here, and I think maybe I don't know if maybe because of its for a while, like he is an American, but dabbled a lot in like Canadian, almost exploitation movies for a little bit
Yeah.
there. So it's like maybe he was just given all this freedom and just trying to throw a lot of stuff against the wall and see what worked.
Could
And
be.
obviously, I mean, I think he has a very good command of this movie, and directed the hell out of it, I
Oh,
think.
absolutely. Yeah. And then obviously we're a Cleveland based film podcast. So we have to mention he would then later go on in '83 to do A Christmas Story, one of,
Yeah.
those beloved classics of the genre. That might be a future double feature I'm going to do like on a Christmas basis, like do a Black Christmas Story. I don't know what order just yet. I guess maybe I don't. Depends on how you want to feel at the end of the night, but
Yeah.
that's pretty fantastic. I got to dig a little more into his filmography. I've only seen those two, and then the one he did about the guy that returns from Vietnam, Death Dream,
Oh
or
yes.
something.
Yes.
So I got to check out some more Black Christmas. So what are you looking for when we're talking about holiday horror? Like, do you need the snow setting? Can it be set not in the snow? Do you need to have like some presents around? Do you need the lights up? Do you need to have a
Yeah.
holiday party going? Like, what are we
I
looking for?
I prefer if there is some snow. I think it sometimes adds to the aesthetic.
Mhm.
It puts you in the mood, it puts you in the vibe, and a lot of times, especially with these horror films, is they were able to do some unique things with the cinematography because maybe you have that cold breath that
Oh
that you
yeah.
see, or icicles, or stuff like that. I mean, there is one or two that I can think of that are set in like tropical areas or something like that. But those did not make my list. It's just not that they don't count. It's just it's more I need more of that, yeah, that winter bitter cold kind of thing
I
to
wonder if it's kind of region specific. Like if we, like I just said, Cleveland film based podcast, but if we were like born and raised in Miami,
right.
like Christmas to us would be like, oh, snow is exotic. Like that doesn't come to
Right.
mind. Like we grew up around like ideally snowy Christmas, but at least snowy winters nonetheless. So that is, I feel like that's kind of normalized to us. I I'm kind of looking for the same things, I think. But then also on top of it, you've got like the thrills of the horror genre that you need to have in
Yeah.
place. And it did seem like it fell into I'm not going to name any movies. We'll see if any of our picks pan this out. But like it seems like it falls into a few categories of like either how Santa is used or not used in the course of this like Christmas ones, or like what we have right now, like Violent Night. You have Santa being the guy who saves the day,
Yeah.
Right. Well, as Christmas Buddy Christmas, you have animatronic Santas, going out and murdering. So like that's an evil Santa, versus Santa saves the day kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's really not like, say, any, Killer Christ movies or something.
Well, I'm definitely gonna try to search for that actually. When that sounds kind of interesting. But did you have any other things you were looking for, Mike, or should we jump in with some honorable mentions here?
Yeah, I think, let's jump into some of these honorable mentions.
All right. Well, what do you got?
The first one is from 1980, is called A Christmas Evil, which is kind of it's a very weird movie. It is a horror film, I would say, but it's also, I would consider it like a psychological movie, because it's about a young man who, basically the movie starts off in this flashback where he sees Santa like eating cookies and everything, and then he comes back down and sees like Santa, who's actually his father, like fooling around with mom, and that just like get that gives him like this bad vision of Santa, and it almost like, you know he should have charged many therapy bills to his parents, but then it flashes forward, and he works at a toy factory. He's kind of spit on at work, or not spit on, but he's always kind of kicked down, and everybody kind of makes fun of him. And so he starts dressing up like Santa, and he really starts to feel that he is Santa, and
Okay.
anybody who gives him any problems, he hacks them up. um,
So we're in evil Santa territory for this one.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. There are some fun kind of interesting things about this, because you can probably tell it was probably made for, my guess is like under 1 million or something like that, because it's like no known stars or anything.
Hmm.
And there's certain scenes, especially towards the end, where the brother, his brother really cares for him, but he's just always just like, man, like my brother is such a crazy man. But there's a part where he's running after him towards the end, and the brother kind of slides on the what looks like snow, but it's definitely blanketed, just like, white stuff. It was that, my guess is like they shot it at another time of the year.
Oh,
uh,
right.
but um, but the ending of that movie is very memorable, and I won't spoil it in case anybody hasn't seen it. But
I
it
haven't.
is it kind of leaves it up to your imagination how the fate of our lead character. But
Okay.
definitely one to check out, Christmas Eve.
That was it's near the top of my list. I'm going to get to that one this week, I think, because it was coming up as I saw it listed as a perennial, not perennial. That's not the right word. A total like John Waters
Oh
recommendation.
yes, yeah.
He's a big vocal fan of it, and also I had read that it was seized under the what do they have in England? It was not like it's censorship. They had a name, the video nasty
Oh
scandals
yes,
in
yes.
England of the '80s. So like it was you weren't allowed to watch it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. That's still like the teenage boy in me. He's like, I'm not allowed to. All right, I got to watch that.
How about you?
I have a couple honorable mentions. I am going to start off with my modern one because I'm doing these out of chronological order this time.
Sure.
I'm going to do the 2010 film Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale.
Oh yes,
Have you seen
yes.
this one?
I have.
All right.
Love it.
So I was thinking I wanted to look at like how other countries do their like kind of Christmas traditions because like we mentioned at the top of the show that stuff I'm looking for that I associate with the holidays as far as I've grown up and where I've grown up, but that may not be the case if you're like in Finland in this case, or if you're in a different country that may come up as we keep talking here. Um, so Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale is Jalmari Helander, Finnish director. It's also told from a child's perspective, which I really like. I love seeing how other countries do children's perspectives on the world because they don't necessarily always play it as safe as we do here in Hollywood, and I kind of like that element of danger. It's like Pietari, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Is the boy in the case here in Rare Exports? It's he and his dad. His dad is a reindeer herder, like literally, like a reindeer reindeer all around here, and it ends up being this interesting kind of Finnish. I wrote in my notes as like a Finnish class war film because he's like the salt of the earth reindeer herder, and then there's this evil corporation who is mining a mountain like right next door to where he herds all of his reindeer. And they discover something, secret down in the ice and all that. And again, if you haven't seen these movies, this is not a. I don't need to spoil it to sell it to you. But like the children are in legit danger at times in this movie. And not that I love children in danger, but I like that it feels as dangerous, as unsafe as this story actually would be.
Oh yeah.
And it also kind of flips the script on the idea of commercializing Christmas by the end of
Yeah.
it. And if you see the movie, you know what we're talking about there. Otherwise, it's a nice little surprise for you at the end of that one. But it does steer not as hard as like a slasher movie into the horror, but it does have plenty of horror. And I think horror fans would be like, oh, yeah, no, this is right up my alley.
Oh, and the cinematography in that movie is great.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you want snow, which we said that's a requirement for our Christmas ones here, or for our holiday horror, it's in northern Finland, like it's all ice and snow, and it's freezing watching this movie.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got, Mike? Another honorable mention here.
Sure. So this one's from the '90s. This was made for or direct to video. Jack Frost from 1997, which is probably another cheaply made film. But it's basically a serial killer is being transported and gets through this accident gets this chemical, poured on him, which makes him turn into a snowman, but a killer snowman. It, it's by most stretch of the imagination, it's not the greatest movie,
No.
but I do have great memories of renting this from the video store a couple times, and mostly because like Shannon Elizabeth,
Yep.
who eventually went on to American Pie, has a very memorable death scene in a shower with this. So if you can imagine like seventh, eighth grade boys, seeing this beautiful woman in a
Oh yeah.
uh, so yeah, we would rent that just because some of the one-liners in it. It's definitely worth checking out. Now, there was a sequel that was made maybe a year or two later that looks even way cheaper than the first one. I don't know, like maybe the first one might have been shot on film and the second one was like maybe shot on video. It looks so much cheaper, but it's one that I just remember really loving as a younger kid. I haven't seen it in years, but I had to mention it for this episode for sure.
I rented it, same as you, same story. I always thought the shower death scene for her was like kind of an interesting little, and this is just horny teenage boy, trying to justify now as an older guy. I thought I kind of flipped the script on the whole like shower scene that you get
Yes.
was nudity in horror movies, but now it's like, but yeah, but what if the water was the melted snowman who could reform himself and then kill someone? We get to see that. It's by no means a good one.
Yes.
And I was double checking. I put on the sequel a couple years back because I was thinking it was set in the tropics, which it is.
Yes.
So we get one. They're getting away from all of that horrible stress and the problems of that first movie. And we're going to go to the Caribbean, but the snowman follows him, of course.
Yeah, but it's like it's like 1,000 times worse.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. There's a quote here I found from the director. I think it is. It says, Jack Frost was made for the cost of its catering budget. So it's there. And if you're not sure on that one too, there's actually the one I just rewatched a few weeks ago was the Riff Tracks version of Jack Frost.
Oh,
Some of it is edited,
sure.
but you get the gist. And also, if you want to have some fun with it, not to be confused with the Michael Keaton Jack Frost, which is I think actually worse.
Right, which
But
came out, yeah, around the same time. So I'm sure there had to have been like I'm sure a couple. I'm sure there's horror stories out there where families saw the two tapes or something,
yeah,
and they.
yeah. If you want to have a chuckle, bring up those VHS boxes next to each other and see like, oh, somebody was definitely. I mean, one has clearly like razor sharp teeth and is
Right,
a
right.
snowman, but you're like, You don't know. You're a parent, like, oh, that's the movie my kid said to get. Let's grab this one
Yeah, maybe a careless dad or
or
mom,
something. Yeah.
you know.
Well, sticking on theme of low budget filmmaking,
Sure.
my other honorable mention is it comes with a huge caveat. Okay. So it's from 1998. It's called Feeders 2 Sleigh Bells, Slay. I have not seen Feeders 1. I don't think it needs to be seen for this one to work. I'm not actually even sure this one works, but God bless Tubi
Yeah.
for doing the good work and putting out these movies that no one remembers or has heard of. But
Oh, there's so many treasures on Tubi.
what?
There's so many treasures.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's now just like my go-to when it's late at night. I'm like, I just want 40 minutes of something to fall asleep to. What's the deep dive on Tubi I bookmarked? So this came out in 98. It's a whopping 72 minutes long. So, you know, awesome. Like it's the perfect way to do like super low budget ones. I guess Feeders 1, the official budget was like 500 to $700. And I think they probably cut it in half to make this one.
Wow.
So it's Mark and John Polonia, who I looked them up a little bit. I definitely want to read more about them. One of them died tragically, like in their 30s, but they were a brother duo who made like over 40 low budget horror and sci-fi movies. I sorry, I lied. I guess the budget I found for Feeders 2 was 700. So
Yeah.
about the same, we'll say. Yeah, as not much basically is what we're saying. I don't even think that would be catering for 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 a movie. So they specifically stayed doing low budget sci-fi and horror stuff. I think in the Pennsylvania area, maybe they went a little bit more East Coast. I think their company now is in New Jersey, but so kind of an East Coast one. This movie though is a very specific recommendation. Let me do the quick one line from Letterboxd first. Well, the tagline is "Close Encounters of the Worst Kind." So, where it's going here. Aliens invade Earth over the Christmas holidays, and it's up to Santa Claus and his elves to save the world. It's 72 minutes, and I'm pretty sure Santa comes in at maybe like the 50 minute mark, I think.
Yeah.
I wasn't really like watching this movie with a stopwatch going, but it's 1998, so it's got 1992, we'll say, like home computer digital art going on to it. It's like the flying saucers are coming in. You're like, what the fuck is going on? The aliens are these look like little skinny, maybe like marionette style puppets with like painted softballs with red eyes for their head. It's awesome and awful. What I would say is it's like the guys in American Movie made a Christmas themed alien movie.
Oh my God.
And so that's what you're getting. The easier quick sell, I would say, if you ever had fun with your friends watching something like Birdemic, this
Yes.
one on with your friends and you will have that kind of time. Like I don't want to use the word competent to describe how it's made, but like it's made as if it's a movie. Like The Room is one of those movies where you're like, this isn't even how movies work. This is how movies work. It's shot on video in 1997 for $700, mostly with their friends. And it's kind of a good time if you're in the mood for that type of a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I adding to my list.
It would definitely work better. Like we were watching it together and kind of making up our own drinking game as we're going through it and like brainstorming some Christmas presents. So we weren't like fully attention on, but it was an absolute blast. And it'll be one of those, maybe not every year, but in a couple of years, be like, hey, remember that really crappy movie about the aliens? Um, Santa has a ray gun at one point and starts saving the world with a ray gun. That it's a still shot of a ray gun with fake 1995 like animated lasers coming out. It's a good time. It looks better than the birds in Birdemic. I'll put it that way,
Okay. Yeah.
but barely. Any other honorable mentions, Mike?
Yeah, I have one more.
All right.
So this one, just because I wanted to give at least a different holiday, New Year's Evil, which is also from 1980. This it's another slasher, and basically it mostly revolves around this woman who is she's a like a DJ at a place in Hollywood, and she starts getting these suspicious calls from a man who, we only a lot of times just see his mouth, and he has one of the kind of voice things that Peter Frampton likes to use, basically. um, but he basically calls her and tells her that he's going to be killing the naughty girls at each So it pretty much at each hour that for each time zone. So for the Eastern time zone, the mid and the mountain and all that.
Yeah.
It's a mostly a straightforward kind of slasher. It kind of subverts your sometimes like you think it might be somebody, but eventually it does kind of catch you off guard at the end. But it also has these really long music sequences. They're maybe sometimes too long, but they because she's hosting a show that's very much like Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve, but it's
Okay.
more punk rock, harder edge and stuff. But there are some scenes that just keep with the music
Mhm.
where maybe it's synced to one of the killings that's going on. It just the song just keeps going on and on, like the longest punk songs ever. But yeah, if you're looking for something not Christmas, I would say give New Year's Evil a spin. It's it's I think it's like just a hair under 90 minutes or something like that. It's it has its moments for sure.
Well, it's also a. I was just looking it up real quick. It's also a canon film, so like, yeah,
Yes.
it's going to hit the canon beats, I assume, because that's
Yes.
1980. They're really ramping up. That's actually an interesting pick too. So like that New Year's Evil and Christmas Evil are both 1980 slasher films. So
Yeah.
something's going on there. Well, I mean, it's basically the birth and boom then of the slasher era as far as horror goes. This was making me think though, we were talking about earlier, like the limited time, like is anybody going to be watching Violent Night as soon as like it's December 26th, or
Right.
even out of that season. New Year's Eve even has like a smaller because like the month of December is taken up by Christmas and people doing
Yeah.
Christmas prep. So maybe from like the 26th to the 31st, people are in like a New Year's Eve mood.
Yeah.
So maybe I got a smaller window to watch this movie.
No, you're right. And I mean, a lot of times it seems like it'll be like some kind of romantic comedy about, oh, I need somebody to kiss on New Year's Eve or something like.
Oh yeah, yeah, like the Gary Marshall movie kind of style.
Yeah, that holiday, probably the movies that have taken place on New Year's Eve are not good.
Yeah, that might be the greatest concentration of holiday garbage is actually New Year's Eve movies. But interesting.
Right.
No, I saw this one popping around some lists too, and I was like, I may give this one a watch. Once we get past once we get to December 26th, got a couple of days off, I'll throw on New Year's Evil. I'm sold on the punk rock aspect to it. That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'll get a kick out of it. It's not something that I would probably rewatch a bunch of times, but it's always if you have the right people with you, I think you might
Yeah,
enjoy it.
nice. So, Mike, honorable mentions out of the way. What is your actual watch challenge pick for holiday horror?
Yeah, so for this one, I wanted to confer with one of the resident movie experts of the area, my friend Robert Banks,
Mhm.
and before we started recording, you mentioned this, so I'm almost wondering if it's your pick as well. Like, are we going to finally sync up and have the
Oh,
same
that would be
pick?
interesting.
I don't know, but he told me that I should watch Don't Open Till Christmas, which is from 1984.
A homicidal maniac is loose at Christmas. His target is Santa Claus. His motives baffle Scotland Yard. Without a pattern for murder, no one dressed as Santa Claus is safe. His death toys are a spear, a gun, an open razor, a dagger, or an old-fashioned garrote. Execution by any means. Don't open till Christmas. Some Santa Clauses ignore the warnings. He surely wouldn't attack a woman.
You're thinking...
Jerry
Me?
Sundquist as Cliff, #1 suspect.
What possible reason could I have for going around killing Santas?
Oh, none that we know of.
Terror drives one Santa Claus into a house of wax, a pit of horror where murder, mayhem, and sudden death are celebrated. Blood, gore, torture, the destruction of the innocent, the painful killing of the guilty.
Did you pick this one as well?
No, I did not. We are safe.
Okay, good. I was almost thinking like this would be a good way to end the year if we like sync up on the 23rd episode. But anyway, so this one is it's kind of weird, I would say, but I did kind of enjoy it. You know, basically these people are dressed up like Santa Clauses, and the ones that are dressed up like Santa Claus are killed by this person with a mask, and it's one of those plastic, not see-through masks. That's not the right word, but it's more like it's almost like the Eyes Wide Shut masks, but a little more clear. Am I describing this terribly?
It also kind of smushes your face a little bit, so it's kind of hard to see a little bit of the details,
Yes.
features. Yeah.
Yes. So it's like you can still see the eyes, but you can't, everything else. It's a little, yeah. So the movie starts at this party where there's a kindly older man who's dressed up like Santa. He's about to like say hello to everybody. And he gets killed in a very very violent way with like a spear in his mouth. So then that kind of is the catalyst that kicks off the movie. So we have this detective who's trying to help figure out who killed this man. He's working with like a young couple, and as the movie goes along, the young couple are introduced to these people. There's a lot of sexual things that are going on in this. So it's like the young couple goes over to this photographer's house, and the photographer's kind of a perv. So he kind of suggests like, hey, like, you want to dress up like Santa, not realizing that, her father was just killed in a Santa suit. uh, but, as it goes along, you kind of have a mystery element going on. But then when it's eventually revealed who the killer is, it's somewhat surprising, but also kind of there's a few times where he's introduced and you get that sneaking suspicion like, yeah, that's probably the guy. And so like when it was revealed, I was a little bit like, okay, like
right.
maybe I'm not as bad as I thought, as far as these go. But certainly it was a unique watch. It is. I found it on Tubi. Tubi has the uncut version. On YouTube, I found there's a slightly edited version which takes out a lot of the nudity, because there's quite a considerable amount, because I think the final runtime's like 86 minutes, and on YouTube's it's like 121 or 122. So there's a little bit of nudity in there, but it was a very interesting movie to add to that, the Christmas horror. And I don't know, it was probably not my favorite, but anything that Robert suggests, I think, is always worth a watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if we would have recorded a few days later, it's possible it would have been my pick, because I got through about 45 minutes of it.
Okay.
And it definitely leaned, I thought, and I like this genre a lot, but it definitely, I thought, was leaning more towards exploitation and horror
Yes.
than just kind of like traditional horror, because it's just kind of gross. In some areas, kind of nasty in other areas. Like, I think the photographer also works, it's like he's working in a porn studio. There's like a peep show thing goes, like, it's pretty.
Yes.
It's
there's actually, that was one of the more interesting characters. I thought it was like, you have this kind of cute girl working at the peep show, and it's run by her mom.
Oh, right.
There's a part where there's like a kindly older man who's like definitely embarrassed about being at the peep show. And he's just like,
does your mother know you're working
your mother
here?
realize that you're doing this? And she's just like, yeah, I'm actually working for my mother.
She owns the place.
Yeah, right, exactly. So yeah, no, you're right. It did kind of dabble into that.
Yeah.
Into like that exploitation, kind of creepy, but but I thought it was effective for what it was.
Yeah. And I think just watching so much Giallo stuff when we did our Giallo episode, and then I was watching some of those more mixed in with like my Noirvember watches. Like I just still have it on the brain where I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of gross. But also, yeah, like I have my suspicions, which I obviously you said you did too. So I feel like now since you said that, I was like, okay, I think my suspicions are probably right as to
Oh yeah, yeah.
who's doing it here. So this one though, the dude wearing the translucent-ish mask is
Yes.
the killer. This isn't a Santa Claus is evil out killing people. This is a targeting people dressed as Santa.
Yes.
Kind of
Yes. And it's really like his motivation, not really ever, fully explained.
Oh, interesting.
Or maybe I just missed it. But it's certainly. I mean, I guess if you're gonna set a movie in Christmas time, I mean, why not kill a bunch of Santas?
It's a good visual. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole thing with Silent Night, Deadly Night, and the whole series. Well, the first three.
Oh yeah,
too, which we probably should have mentioned up top, but I was going to pick one of those, even though I'm having some fun going through that series this holiday season because I'd only seen the first one, and those are kind of a fun watch.
Oh, see, the second one is pretty much 90% of the first one.
Yeah. I was watching that one probably about 4 or 5 days ago, and it was just like, wait, no, did I push play on the wrong one? This is the scene. Oh, okay, I'll give it a minute. But then as you go deeper in that series, though, you get like Monty Hellman directs one.
Right.
I think like, is it Brian Yunza directs what? Like there's like some directors. I'm like, why are you directing the 5th movie in this series? This is so wild. So I'm having on fun with that one.
We have to kind of blame the Friday the 13th series for introducing that, hey, we're going to show like, the last 15 minutes before we actually get into what we're
Yeah. Hey, no, just make like a 60-minute movie. We'll pad it. We got footage from all that. We'll put it in here, but,
so what'd you end up picking?
Well, so your comment about Don't Open Till Christmas and the killer, well, the killer not being Santa Claus in this particular case, being a dude in a translucent and very creepy mask, I have to say. Like we're not describing it well. Like do a quick Google search for Don't Open Till Christmas movie mask. It's creepy. It also has the forced smile, if I'm remembering correctly. The way.
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird. I have a movie. Again, I stuck with I went outside of Hollywood. I wanted to see like what some other countries were doing. And this one actually had been on my list for a couple years now. I just hadn't seen it streaming anywhere. This one also has a killer. This killer, though, is dressed like Santa Claus. And there isn't really motivation, which I found to be like very effective and very creepy. So the movie I went with my official pick. Okay, so there's a number of titles for this one. The official title in France when it came out was 3615 Code Père Noël. Because it was like this early internet kind of computer that this kid uses in here, and it was like the code name for like the message board or something that he was using to try to talk to Santa Claus.
Yeah.
If you're on Letterboxd, it's Game Over from 1989.
Okay.
If you're on IMDb, it's Deadly Games from 1989. And if you're on Wikipedia, it's Deadly Games from 1989. I'm going with Game Over because I'm on Letterboxd more than I'm on the other one.
Sure.
So Game Over, 1989, directed by René Manzor.
He's 9 years old. His name is Thomas. He's a little genius. He believes in Father Christmas. His 2 favorite pastimes? Computers and superheroes. December 24th, midnight. Hidden under the dining room table, Thomas waits for Father Christmas. But what he does not know is that he is about to experience the most frightening night in his entire life.
The quick description of this one is, again, 1989. It's Home Alone before Home Alone came out. Home Alone comes out the next year, 1990. I have no idea if Chris Columbus or anybody or John Hughes had like seen this one. I didn't really get too deep into like how did this come out in America or when was this ever shown. But it's the main kid is Thomas. He's obsessed with action films. You would actually, I think, really dig the opening of this, Mike. It's a French Christmas version of Eye of the Tiger as he plays Rambo in this mansion he lives in.
Yes.
no black and Christmas! Christmas!
It's pretty fun. So he has gadgets all over the house. He's obsessed. Like he's kind of a tinkering, like, I don't know, it's basically like Doc Brown from Back to the Future, like as a child. Like he's just inventing shit. He's got a wrist thing in 1989. He's got a wrist thing where he can see like this closed circuit security cameras around his house. He can punch in on this like code pad on his wristband, and like a trap door opens in the hallway with a net underneath it. He like, captures his dog. He puts on face paint. He's got secret compartments throughout this like mansion of a house. It's actually kind of a castle looking thing that he lives in with his widowed mom and his grandpa. And side plot to that, or secondary plot to that, is just like some fucking crazy guy grabs a job as Santa at the temp agency this kid's mom works for, overhears their address, spray paints his hair white and his beard white, has the Santa suit on as a temp Santa. He's acting as a temp Santa. A kid sits on his lap. He doesn't like what she says, so he smacks her like a child. And then he gets fired, and he's like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to go to this house and murder some people. Like, there's no motivation. He's just like, all right, I'm going to go get this. So you end up a kid on his own with all of his inventions and all of his gadgets, and he has to keep himself and his like very old, very fragile, almost totally blind grandpa safe as this like maniac dressed as Santa is loose in the house. It's a lot of fun, but actually it also really takes its time to give you a sense of character and dynamics between mainly the kid and the grandpa. But you also get a sense of, because like the mom is like, I'm trying to call home. It's Christmas Eve. I can't get a hold. I can't get through. All the phone lines are down. I have to get home. So she just knows that mother instinct. Something's wrong. I got to get home. So she's racing to get home. Of course, she gets run off the road in a car accident. You know, like it's, she can't get home real quickly. But that kid, he's watched a lot of Rambo. He's watched a lot of action films, and he's got all these gadgets, and he's ready to defend his house, keep his grandpa safe, and take out Santa Claus. The kicker with this one, though, is, and I think you get this because it's not a Hollywood film, is they play it up as the kid thinks it's actually Santa the whole time.
Yeah.
Which makes it really, really kind of fun because, as an audience, and I'm not going to spoil any of these scenes, but like when he arrives at the house, immediately this guy is fucked in the head and he's violent.
Yeah.
And this kid sees it. He sees, because he comes in the house through the chimney. And so by the end of the movie, the kid is safe. I'll at least give you that part there. But like the trauma of like Santa was just in the house and tried to kill me and my grandpa for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And he's a child. You're just like, what? It ends with like being like, it's my fault, Mom. I wanted to see Santa, because he sets up all these cameras and all this elaborate stuff because he wants to actually see Santa when he comes on Christmas Eve. Turns out it was just some random crazy person. Actually, I think when I looked it up, I don't remember necessarily in the movie, but I feel like on Wikipedia or someplace they described it as like a recently released derelict who uses this public computer terminal to like talk to people, and he stumbles onto this kid and he convinces him he's Santa Claus and blah blah blah. But
I'm looking at the images from this movie as you're talking about it, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is like so me. Like, yes.
Home Alone vibes. Apparently, the story goes that the filmmakers even threatened legal action on plagiarism because, like, it's literally my movie. You just didn't make it the horror version, kind of thing. But no, it's a really good time. Definitely don't watch it with the kids around. If you've got a teen kid like I do who's starting to get into horror movies, very, very good one. It's not a full-on like slasher gore movie, but there is, it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's still there, but it's up on Shudder, which is where I saw it. I was like, oh, it's streaming. Oh, I got to do this one. So,
amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a solid one. So it sounds like, Mike, that one might be more of a solid like recommendation than Don't Open Till Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, I would still say, I mean, if you have the time and want to really dip into these, I think Don't Open Till Christmas is a fine fine watch. But this one sounds like a must watch in my eyes.
It checks a good number of boxes. It has that playfulness of like a child main character. Actually, even calling back to the one we were just talking about, films about filmmaking, when you were talking about Son of Rambo.
Yes.
Like it has that kind of thing where just like an inventive kid left alone to his own devices and a good amount of money. I mean, they live in a fucking castle, so it's not hurting for money for all these gadgets, but but it doesn't steer into being a kid movie the way I think you get that kind of genre
Yeah.
scene in Hollywood. Definitely not safe for the kids. And the very last moments of it, if you're a fan of like the Silent Night, Deadly Night films, you could see childhood trauma being born right there on screen as he's sitting there looking at Santa, going like, Santa, why would you do that? It gave me real strong feelings of like that final scene in the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, where you're in the orphanage and you got the kids and the Santa and the whole situation there.
Right.
Definitely worth the wait. So our official watch challenge picks for holiday horror are Don't Open Till Christmas from 1984. And you said that was on Tubi?
Correct.
Which right? Okay. And Game Over, aka Deadly Games, aka 3615 Code Père Noël from 89. That is currently on Shudder, if you have that particular service. Mike, what have we got in front of us for our next challenge?
So because we're heading into the new year, we decided for this episode it's going to be pick a year, any year. So Aaron sent me a spin the wheel of death, and came up with 1981. So basically, this is a kind of free for all grab bag, anything from 1981 that we probably haven't seen. So looking forward to this one.
Yeah. I wonder if it's going to skew horror in any way. I assume I'm going to have at least one of those there, since we were just talking about the 80s and the birth of the slasher genre there. So, so it has to be films from the year 1981. If you have any of your favorite films from the year 1981 you want to let us know about, or if you want to just suggest a topic or a genre you'd like us to cover on a future show, you can send it to watchchallengepodcast@gmail.com, or take a look at the links that are in the show notes in the episode you're listening to right now, and let us know what you recommend.
Until next time, folks, rate and review the show in whatever podcast app you're using, and we'll see you with the next challenge. Happy holidays, everybody.